Welcome back to the program. Let's go up. I think we may be going to Labrador for this call, if I'm not mistaken, and speak with the PC member for Lake Melville, Keith Russell. Hi, Keith. You're on the air.
How you doing, Betty?
Top shelf. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. I just got to say, I really enjoyed your comment there, the last one about, it's easy for people to have their commentary on their own and be negative about people's, level of intelligence, whatnot. But if you really got something to say and you want to be part of it all, step up to the plate and get on the radio, get out on the airwaves and have your say.
And that's all it takes. And, it's not about who pretends they're smarter than anybody else. It's because everybody, if you have a problem in your world, however big or small that corner of the world is, that's a real problem for that person. They should be heard, and we give them the opportunity.
Absolutely. But I got to say, it's similar to politics, too. I just caution people, too, when you do want to get involved, by all means, jump into the conversation. But get informed about whatever you're wishing to comment on. Just don't go off for the sake of going off. But before we get into what I wanted to talk about here today, I just wanted to make sure that I at least took a minute here to wish everybody luck in dealing with Tropical Storm Leslie. Wish everybody a bit of luck in dealing with the aftermath of that storm. I hope everybody's holding up nicely, but we're a tough sort, so we'll lean on each other and get through it, no sweat.
For sure, man.
Absolutely. I called in today, Patty. We've got some protests going on about Muskrat Falls and all that stuff, and you see some news coverage and all that, and I mean, that's all fine and dandy. I'll just give you an example here. We had a $1 million investment in healthcare equipment here at Lab Grenfell Health. So we've had ultrasound, EKG equipment, laparoscopy equipment. We've had repairs, totaling over $1 million. You get no mention in the media, and yet 4 people can get together roadside up by Muskrat Falls, Patty, with magic markers and some sticks and a little bit of cardboard, and they'll make the news. I don't see the point at that. My point, I guess I was trying to make here, Patty, is that it certainly is the flavor of the month. Everybody's got their own agenda as to why it should or should not be developed, but what you're seeing here, especially up in Labrador, Patty, is people who have never been there, have never had any historical ties to this site, who have never had any family that ever hunted or trapped remotely close to the area. Everybody's getting their picture took. Everybody's talking about their ancestors. I don't know. I just find it, it's nice to be concerned about the land. It sure is. But now this is the opportune time, if you will, for people to jump on the bandwagon and claim to want to be part of the environmental movement to see this project stop, which to me is just, it's silly at this point.
Well, that's possibly fair, but I think a bigger part of that issue, though, Keith, is when people look at what's going on at the site and really realizing that this is a project that is yet to be sanctioned. It's a project that yet have all the full documentation regarding the up-to-date current costs and the evaluation of the alternatives. I think people are more upset about that than they are about the fact that the land will have to be disturbed if and when the project goes ahead.
No, and I can appreciate that too. I mean, and you do hear the buzz about people, and the optics associated with development whilst the project remains unsanctioned. And sure, but I mean, if you've heard Mr. Martin talking Nalcor there, I mean, this is a calculated risk. They've made the decision. It puts them essentially a year ahead if sanction is achieved in the House of Assembly. And it's a calculated risk. It's an investment. I mean, that it was an old walking trail. I mean, really, if it has to be remediated, that's one thing, Patty, but all in all, it's still an asset of the province.
Keith, when it comes time for the debate on the Muskrat Falls project, what role do you think the evaluation of the alternatives are going to play, and have you seen any of these reports yet?
Well, what we're going to be seeing in the House, and again, this is my understanding of how this whole process has to work. We have to be in a position not only for ourselves as elected officials, Patty, but for all of the people in the province. We can talk about the jobs. You talk about the thousands of jobs during peak. You talk about the man hours. You talk about the hundreds of millions of dollars being dumped in the local economy. That's all well and good. But what they need to do is they need to put it in perspective for the people of the province, the average householder, in such a way that says apples to apples. You want to talk wind power, you want to talk natural gas, here are the numbers in today's time, if you will, as compared to Muskrat and what's before us, and therefore then use that, the apples-to-apples comparison, in order to make the decision, Patty.
When it comes to this, I'm not going to ask you to make a pass judgment against how the process has gone under the guidance of the Premier and Minister Kennedy and whatnot, but when people's frustration level is at this boiling point, and not everybody's, but those who are vehemently opposed to Muskrat Falls, is there any need on behalf of government to want to talk them down or have them see things as you see it? Or is this simply now these people are disregarded and their voices in the wilderness? Government is going to proceed as they see fit, and to use Mr. Tom Marshall's words, that's how democracy works. The majority will eventually have its way. So, because that's a tough political game, isn't it? You may think you're doing the right thing for the province in your own minds and your own deliberations, but at some point politics has to play a role, and there's a significant number of people who are furious with even the concept of Muskrat Falls.
Sure, and I can understand that too. And I mean, there are those out there that would say that, with an overwhelming majority and mandate from the people, that it's our prerogative to do things the way we want. But I do believe that we're taking the right course of action by at least having that debate, at least putting those numbers out there. There's going to be a lot of media coverage. There's going to be a lot of these reports hitting the public. You'll see reports on the various alternatives as we talked. We'll see reports on the economic benefits of the project. We'll hear, about the rates. I mean, and that's one thing that's always been, a lot of misconceptions out there about the doubling of rates, and we'll have our chance to put those reports out there which demonstrate effectively to the people how we stabilize rates over time, and we get away from being at the whim of the oil markets across the world.
We'll see, and that certainly plays a role. We know there's volatility attached or associated with the purchase or production of any of the fossil fuels. Well, I mentioned the politics of it all, Keith, because the fact of the matter is the CRA poll and the most recent Angus Reid poll, they are not just numbers that can reflect a snapshot in time. At some point, I'm sure inside the party and caucus room, people acknowledge that this is now a developing trend or an established trend in the decline of popularity for your party and for the Premier. So when there's a political hot potato like Muskrat Falls, as a party, because some people are going to want to endure, some of the elected members of the PCs are going to want to keep their seat.
Sure.
How do you address what seems to be a real stern slide in popularity? Because politics 101, if you don't get re-elected, you're no longer a politician, and politics doesn't matter anymore. So what do you do? Because it is important for the overall scheme of things regarding the seat of government.
It is important, Patty, and I tell you what, I mean, I don't take much stock in the polls myself, and I don't think any leader that was ever polled, whether you're in politics or whatever, you cannot govern and show true leadership and show true vision by listening to polls, especially when they're polling whatever areas they see fit at whatever specific time. I mean, districts are districts, and they're different stripes. No matter where you go, you pull one, you pull the other, that's what you get. But I tell you what, in terms of where we're going, this is what it takes for leadership. In this province, in every country in the world, you have to be prepared to make the hard decisions when you're at the on the top rung of the ladder. It's as simple as that. You may be unpopular for it. You may seem that you're not caring about the people. You may think that you're not heeding advice. But the fact remains is that when that is your responsibility to make those hard decisions, you're going to be unpopular. You're going to see dips in popularity. I hold no stock in that stuff. I think we got a great bunch. I think we're doing what's right for the province, and our track record speaks for itself.
Keith, I appreciate your time today. Stay in touch with the program. We're all very much looking forward to the Muskrat Falls debate and the resumption of doing the people's business in the House of Assembly.
Well, I'll tell you what, Patty, I, for one, I'll be there with bells on.
Good talking to you.
Right on, Patty. Take
care.
It easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Keith Russell is the PC member for Lake Melville. Look, Muskrat Falls, my God, we beat that around so much now. And, of course, the conversation and the debate surrounding Muskrat Falls was reduced to probably the lowest common denominator concerning a development that is a multi-billion-dollar development. Ratepayers on the hook for every dime beyond the piece of cash equity the government puts in. So for the conversation to have deteriorated, in my opinion, to where it has, is a real problem. When the debate ensues in the House of Assembly, there are some key things here that won't just be about the political entitlements. It won't be just about the success of the parties going forward. But the merits of this deal, can we ever press reset? And these are what some of the most vocal proponents and opponents to Muskrat Falls. Do you think, as the listeners, we can reset the conversation to a point of exaggerating? Forget the speculation. Drop the hyperbole. Forget the vitriolic partisan bull that goes on surrounding that and every other issue. Can we get down to the merits of the deal? Can people in the public ever be convinced one way or the other, regardless of what side you're on now? If you're opposed, can you ever be convinced different? If you are opposed to the deal for a variety of reasons, do you have questions that you think will get satisfied? And number one, and I said this, and I got my knuckles wrapped, and boy, as you know, I'm almost sick of saying it, you can't hurt me. If the documentation promised an absolutely clear description and itemized list of the costs associated with the DG3 numbers, the DG3 numbers, if they're not complete, the PCs have a problem. If the terms of reference for evaluating the alternatives, whether it be natural gas, piped from the Grand Banks, the purchase of LNG from the Irvings, and then all of the appropriate accommodations made on shore to use LNG to produce electricity, wind, upgrade of small hydro, whatever. If that terms of reference is not complete and fair for a fair evaluation, as has been the case for Muskrat Falls, I think the evaluation is going to be pretty complete. If all of that is not part of the conversation, and the politicians take it upon themselves to allow the conversation to be deteriorated in the House of Assembly further than it already has, not only do all the politicians have a problem, but you and I, most importantly, you and I, have a huge problem. So what do we do to encourage that debate to be the rational one required? I don't know. Suggestions welcome.